It's week 3. If you're a woman in your 30s wanting to drop body fat and get in shape, then listen up. I am now 3 weeks into a 6-week fat loss phase. And I'm just documenting a little bit of the journey, sharing how it's going, what I'm doing, the struggles, because we have overcomplicated getting in shape for far too long. So if you're confused, it's no wonder why. If you're new here, I'm Rachel, an online coach, helping women get strong, fitter, build a body they are confident in and proud of, so that they can actually look and feel better in their 30s and 40s than they ever did in their 20s. So if you've not seen the previous videos, go back and watch them to see where we're up to at this point. The last video I talked about how my weight had spiked significantly due to the time of the month. That is now over, but interestingly, it took a good few days for my weight to start coming down. And even now, my weight is a little bit stable at the minute, but we are looking and feeling leaner. So the scale weight is somewhat irrelevant, and we're looking at the bigger picture. Now, I did my photographs this weekend because I wanted to see, the scale wasn't moving, but I wanted to see where I'm at, how my body's looking, because I am feeling leaner. And this is the current week 3 progress. So there's definitely changes that have been made. So it's not that the scales stopped because I'm not losing body fat. This is why visuals really matter and can really help. But the only thing is with that is you've also got to be realistic with what's achievable in the time frame you've set. You can't be expecting drastic changes. I'm not on a particularly aggressive approach, so I know not to expect huge changes in how my physique is looking. But we're looking for where there are small changes, things looking tighter, leaner, there's more definition, there's less body fat in areas. That's the focus. This is really key, that we don't want to make drastic decisions based off one metric. So one of the things that I see a lot with the clients that I work with is they're so fixated on what the scale's doing, and sometimes they're not even tracking their measurements, they're not doing their photos because they don't want to. But that's where you're actually going to see the changes you want to see. Because if you just go off that scale weight, if I'd have just done that this week, looking at it thinking, it's still not gone down, it's still not gone down, it's still not gone down, oh, it's gone up again, and that was the only thing that I was focused on, then I'd have felt pretty deflated by the end of the week. But I was like, well, you're doing everything that you did before your period, during your period, like you've been as consistent as you possibly can. So you're not gaining weight back. It's just one of those things that will come in due course. You need to look at the whole picture, not one metric. So really, if you're in the position where you are doing everything right, you are ticking all the boxes, and there's been nothing significant like that, it's not been your time of the month, if you've had like 2 to 3 weeks of the consistency, outside of your period, and nothing's changing, and then your photos look the same and your measurements look the same, then yes, you're probably going to need to make an adjustment. But you can't make that judgment call after just a few days. It's not the reason to suddenly drop your calories even more or try and increase your activity. This is where trusting the process comes in. You don't just drop body fat like that, like it's there one day and it's suddenly not. Sometimes you will see a weight on the scale and it won't actually drop for a few days, even though you've been consistent. But if you constantly get into that cycle of you doing everything you possibly can, you're being consistent, then the scale doesn't budge for a few days and you think, oh, it's not working. And you do one of two things. You either think you need to go harder, push harder, cut your calories harder. You do that, you burn out. Or you think, well, it's not working, what's the point? I may as well just stay as I am. And that's when you drive into the overeating, sacking everything off. So instead, you've got to commit to what you're doing and see it through and allow time to take effect. Be patient and it will come. There's a few things I wanted to touch on this week So it's not been particularly problematic because obviously I had my worst week over with my period. So other than the scales playing around, it's been a pretty good week. I have felt good with training and eating again, because I find that I don't have the same food preoccupation. The hunger levels are different. I'm just not as bothered about food and snacking and like as I would be pre-period or around my period. It's often quite a positive time to really get your head down and do the thing. So that's what I've mainly been focused on. But a conversation that crops up a lot with clients, and it's happened to me the other day because I was in a different city, wandering around. I did 30,000 steps that day. So I didn't take food, I was just like, I was to eat while I'm out. But because I got so preoccupied, I was walking around, got a little bit lost, was trying to find my way back. And I suddenly was aware of how hungry I was. And your body's not stupid. And this is the thing, when you are so hungry, of course, you are going to want to, like, you're going to be thinking about the most energy dense food possible, because your body's not stupid. It's like, give me fuel, give me glucose, carbohydrates. And so that's, like, that's when you'll be like, oh, I need this. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, because it's also very difficult to then, when you're so hungry and like hangry as well. And I was wandering around, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to eat. I'm so hungry. And I went into this shop and I was like, just wanting to eat everything. And I thought, right, no, you need to be sensible with this. The first thing, and I was like, all you're going to buy from this shop, you're going to get some more water, because I was a bit dehydrated, which isn't going to help. And you're just going to get a pack of chicken. And then you're going to eat that, drink the water, give it 10 minutes, and then you're going to decide what you're going to get or where you're going to go. And what that did was it allowed me, in that moment when I was so hungry and could have spent 20 odd quid just buying all sorts and nailing it, it gave me the chance. I had this whole pack of chicken, I had a good whack of protein, because I was a little bit low on that from the start of the day as well, and it took the edge off my hunger. I'm not saying it went completely, but it allowed me to then go somewhere else where I could sit down, and I had something else, and I got some fruit. I got like a small like sandwich type thing and some fruit, and that was plenty, and I was absolutely fine then. And there wasn't the need for something super calorific, the chocolate, the donuts, all these things that were like calling at me. So that's where being prepared is really helpful. And I talk about this with my clients. Like, if you're not, it's not that you have to meal prep everything, by no means, but you have to know what you're going to eat or what's available, so that if you do suddenly get busy and you're suddenly starving, that you're not reaching for the things that aren't going to be aligned with your goals. And that is so important, because it's those moments where you feel like you've then messed up, or again, you go overboard, the calories ridiculous, and again, you're then either playing catch up, or you're feeling like, well, what's the point? I might as well carry on like the rest of the day. So it's having things to hand. It's having chicken prepped in the fridge. It's having fruit available to snack on. It's having a rough meal plan for your week. This is what you're going to have, so that it's suddenly lunchtime, or lunch has passed, it's now 2:00 in the afternoon, and you're like, I've not had my lunch, I need to eat. Right, well, it's a Tuesday, I know what I need to eat on a Tuesday. Like, I've told myself this is what I'm going to have for my lunch, and you go and put that together. It removes all the stress, because this is the thing, is it's normal to want those calorie dense foods in those moments. I'm not saying that you need to be superhuman and be able to just resist it. That's not the case. It's how do you make it as easy as possible to not have to reach for those foods when you are working towards fat loss. The other thing I want to talk about, which I did a post about on my Instagram a few days ago, is the importance of doing what you said you were going to do. Right, so I'm not talking about that you have to rigidly follow a plan and you cannot deviate and # no days off. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. first and foremost, you need flexibility in your week. You need to be able to look at what your week is, and if you've got training planned on X, Y, and Z, but suddenly something happens, the kids are ill, something crops up with work, there's something that's unavoidable, and you can be flexible in what you're doing and when, 100%. What I'm referring to is the moments when you are letting yourself off the hook, because does it really matter? Does it really matter if I have this biscuit? Does it really matter if I'm 500 steps short of my step target? Does it really matter if I snooze my alarm this morning? And yeah, technically, no, it doesn't. And a one-off here and there, that's not going to make a big dent into your progress. The issue is the frequency in which you're doing this and what that actually does to your self-trust, self-confidence, self-worth, and actual progress over time. If you are constantly saying those things to yourself, you are not following through on your word. If you've told yourself, I'm going to aim for 8,000 steps a day, and every time it gets to 7,000, you think, it doesn't really matter. You told yourself you're eating 2,000 calories a day, you're at 2,000, it doesn't matter, have an extra biscuit and go a little bit over. What that's doing is saying you can't trust yourself. You can't trust the decisions you've made. You're not following through on what you said you were going to do. And that's what's important. So yes, it's in terms of the progress. You constantly eat over your calories, even a small amount. You're going to find it harder to lose the body fat that you want to lose. You consistently don't hit the steps you want to hit. You're going to find it harder to lose the body fat you want to lose. But it's less about that and more about what you're telling yourself every time you do that. Whereas if you commit to something, and if that means, in my example, it was I had 10,000 step, non-negotiable, but I'm aiming for 12 on days where I can and feeling good and I've got the time and availability to do that, I'd hit the 10,000. I was on like 10.5. So I was like, well, I'm over it, but I'm also then actually not actually that far to get to 12. So I've had my tea. I could do with a bit of a walk post tea, help digestion and all that, some fresh air before bed. It's going to be 15 minutes that I'm outside for. And I went and did that. And that's because I'd made the commitment to myself that where I can, I'm going to try and hit that number. Now, if I had an evening of client calls and I'd done 10,500, then I'm not going to force myself to do that or stay up later or try and rush through things to get that done. But when I've got a free evening and my option is just to sit on the sofa, scroll on my phone, well, I may as well go out and do that. So that's the example where in one sense, yes, it doesn't really matter, but it fundamentally matters to the person that I'm saying I want to be. And that's really important. And that is, if you can do that in the moment, when you're really focused on a goal. Because again, when you're at maintenance and you are just being healthy and living life, then you've got a bit more flexibility with that you don't have to be as structured with things. But interestingly, if you do it in the times when you are really structured and focused, and for me, I've got this 6-week fat loss phase, then it means outside of that, that just becomes who I am. So if I was still saying I'm going to do something, I'm still going to do it irrespective of the outcome. And that's what we really need to think about. Doing things irrespective of the outcome because of what it says about you as a person and what that does in terms of building your confidence. If you think about it, every time that you do something that you said you were going to do that's pushing you a little bit more, I need to get my coat on and go for another 15-minute walk. Okay, no, I am going to get my alarm's gone off. I am going to get up. No, I'm going to put my phone down. I'm not going to scroll. I'm going to go to bed. Boom, I've hit my calories for the day. I've eaten really well. I've looked after myself today. All those things are like a little tick in their self-confidence book. And the more you do those, it's like, I can do this. I am the kind of person that does this. This is who I'm becoming. This is who I am. But if you do the opposite of that, then that's going to chip away at that confidence. And then you're going to think, I'm not the kind of person that can do this. And that's where it then, people think that they can't do something because they've always had the evidence that they just let themselves off the hook. So if you're wanting to achieve something, don't set targets. If you're wanting to achieve fat loss, look better, improve your body composition, create your structure. What does that all look like? What are the targets that you need to hit? What are the, what steps do you need to do? What kind of food do you need to eat? How much do you need to train? How much water are you drinking? And you might have an optimal level, you might have a non-negotiable level. Set those things as things that, it's where it's a little bit challenging. You've got to push yourself to achieve them, but it's not so difficult that you're never going to feel, especially at the start, that you're able to do it. And commit to those things. Even commit to one thing that you say you're going to do every single day. And watch what happens the more you do that. And how you start to feel about yourself and the process. I hope that's been helpful. As always, welcome questions. Hit me up on Instagram. Let's have a conversation. If you think that I might be able to help you, let's have a chat about it. And I'll see you in the next video.